They Were the Last Resort Part 6 by Hylian Hero 71. March 25th, 2034, 1:13 a.m. War Room, UHS Stern Resolve. How bad is it? The holographic figure of Admiral Parker asked, Johnson standing beside her as Logan made his report. Bad. Probably whole battle fleet. They must have snuck through before you closed the gap. If they're traveling at the speed we expect, they should have arrived here by now. They're waiting to attack. And that worries me. Logan said, sighing. He hadn't slept for 2 days, and it was starting to get to him. I'm more concerned about your report, frankly. Johnson intervened. I've sent a unit to secure your little complex, and they don't like what they've found. What are we supposed to do with hundreds of alien soldiers in stasis? Nothing for now, Logan said sternly. The shock of it all was still sinking in. The fact that he had unwittingly been a test subject for a pathogen designed to kill the human race was unsettling. Parker, how are you holding? We're holding, but the attempt to break through our lines are slowly intensifying. I don't believe that's our main threat, though. It's far more likely that this fleet approaching you is our main problem, Parker said. Agreed. I'm pulling what ships under my command that are with you back to Sol. Any force you could send as well from the recon fleet will be greatly appreciated, Logan said, delivering orders on his pad. I'll send what I can, Parker said skeptically. But even then, will your force be strong enough? There's no way to tell, Logan said, hating the fact that that was the truth. We could call in civilian ships and their escorts, Johnson interjected. And risk our entire population? Logan said incredulously. They were all soldiers at one time or another. They'll understand. The ships are armed well. We only have to use them, Johnson stated simply. What of the children? Shall we risk them too? Listen, I know it's not what any of us want to do, Parker chimed in. But Johnson is right. If we lose this fight, humanity is doomed. We have to win. Fine, Logan said, defeated as he sent an order to the civilian force commander, a sick feeling in his stomach. When they arrive, they'll deliver as many non-combatants into the surface as possible. Agreed, Johnson answered. I've got my best engineers working to get these cities back in working order. There's quite a few aliens down here, but we'll make room for our people. We've also got those sensor scramblers back online. Anyone who enters the system won't have a clue what's going on around Earth. Good. Good, Logan said, still unsure about calling in the civilians. The idea of bringing the ship containing his wife and child into combat was unappealing, no matter how good the ship was. I'll communicate with you two later. I need to organize our defense, he said, closing the channel. He switched to his tactical map, organizing both the ships defending Sol and Earth itself. But a small pinging noise distracted him. Someone was hailing him. Someone who knew his personal channel. He checked, and it didn't read as human or Alliance. Out of curiosity, he answered. Good to see you again, Admiral. The form of Vizok appeared on the table before him, the reptilian smiling. What did the new order want? How did you get this channel? Logan asked. Oh, that's hardly important, Vizok said, waving a claw hand dismissively. What is important is that the new order wish to make a request of you. What kind of request, Vizok? I don't have time for games, he said, crossing his arms. It has come to our attention that something interesting was discovered by you on your home planet. Something that could greatly help the Order in our conflict with the Alliance. Something to improve our soldiers. That's a tall order. We also know that things are about to be difficult for your kind. Give us this, and I can promise that our fleets will ensure your survival. If not, we will have to acquire the information we seek via other means. Is that a threat, Vizok? Logan asked, his annoyance beginning to rise. No threats, only promises,
We will have that data. I had hoped you'd give it to us in exchange for our help, but you seem resolute. Be warned, Admiral. There are other parties who would not be so opposed to giving us this, and then they would have our help,
Vizok said, his friendly tone masking something much darker. I won't give this to you, and that's final. As for your warning, I would remind you we've agreed to a mutual non-aggression. I would advise you not to break that, Logan said, no longer hiding his contempt.
Who would care if we did? The Alliance? They would be pleased. You're alone here, wedged between two great empires. Don't forget your place.
Go to hell, Vizok, Logan said, cutting the transmission. Great. Just what we needed, he muttered, going back to planning. After what felt like hours spent leaning over his map, Logan felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned to see the familiar visage of Krytek standing before him. What are you doing here, Captain? I thought you were in Freedom's Triumph with the operatives, he asked, embracing his friend. Had to make a quick exit, Krytek answered. Seems the Alliance caught on about my allegiances. Damn. You are our only spy, Logan said. In truth, they hadn't actually gotten much from Krytek that they couldn't get from decrypting enemy transmissions. Krytek had mostly been a convenient way to deploy operatives, and he had wanted to help. I have good news, however. Opinions on this whole affair within the Alliance are far less supportive than you'd expect. They're already fighting the Order, and now they're fighting humans over a single sector. Many don't think it's worth it. The government is suppressing those opinions, though. Unless something big happened, I doubt it would lead to anything. That's good to hear, but it doesn't help my current predicament, Logan said, bringing up his defensive plans. I've got to figure out a way to last until my reinforcements arrive. Care to help me, old friend? Always, Krytek answered, his mandibles clicking in a manner that was equivalent to a human smile. 1 day later. The civilian force is entering the system, reported the computer as Logan pored over his map. He could have been on the bridge. He'd finished his plans hours ago, and he'd only barely gotten sleep. But he wanted to be alone and alert during a time like this. He had worried the enemy would make a move before the reinforcements arrived, but fortunately they hadn't. They were there, though. Every few hours, the early warning beacons pinged new signatures. He sighed in deep relief when the beacons of the civilian ships finally showed themselves on the map. He had protested their use, but he couldn't deny their usefulness. It seemed like anyone at risk would be able to be evacuated to Earth. The forces from Parker were still a few hours away, but he had breathing room now. The new ship settled into an Earth orbit with the rest, the old hulls of the freighters still so much more beaten than the rest of the fleet. But they were a part of history now, and no one wanted to change them. He even saw the new Eden. It was a shame he wouldn't be there to see his son see Earth for the first time. A fleet of shuttles began running back and forth between the ships and the surface, transferring non-combatants slowly out of the life ships and into the captured cities. It was slow going, but going well. Then a flashing red light started blinking, and warning klaxons sounded. Red alert. Logan ran into the bridge, taking the command seat as he shouted, "Report! We've got hostile signatures dropping into the system, moving toward Earth," the intel officer reported, passing Logan the readings. Indeed, it was nearly a full battle fleet. They'd even brought a dreadnought. "Assume defensive positions," Logan ordered the fleet, as the ships began to move toward their assigned positions in the system. Most remained near Earth, but some positioned themselves closer to the asteroid belt, though the angle of the Alliance fleet meant that they wouldn't pass through it. "Sir, the civilian ships haven't finished offloading," an officer reported. It was true. The ships were only 50% finished with their task. "Halt the shuttles, we have no time. Order the captains to take their ships to the assigned positions." Logan hated what he was doing, but he had to, or else none would survive. "Sir, that force isn't just Alliance. I'm picking up signatures from the New Order in there," Intel shouted as the Resolve moved into position, covering Earth's orbit with the civilian ships. Looked like Vizak had made good on his promise. Great. At war, they still find a way to put aside their differences by killing humans, Logan remarked. Meanwhile, Sol 3, Research Station 00. General Johnson looked out of the control room window, staring at the rows of creatures in stasis. He had some scientists look at them, but frankly, none of them could say anything other than, they're human, but not really. They could tell him that each one had a few cybernetic implants for a purpose they couldn't quite identify. The bodies and blood had been cleaned away, and with the amount of men in this room, Johnson imagined it didn't look all too different than when it was in operation. Sir, we've got a problem, the head scientist said to him. I'm aware of the situation up there. That's Admiral Wayne's problem, not mine, Johnson said, simply and gruffly. Not that, sir. A signal penetrated into the base, some sort of command, and it definitely wasn't us. As the scientist spoke, there was an audible hiss as every stasis pod in the room beyond started to vent gas. What's going on? Johnson asked. The signal must have come from the Alliance fleet. It's starting the wake-up sequence for every stasis pod in the facility. I can't stop it, the scientist said, his hands racing across the terminal trying to stop it, but it was too late. How many pods is that? He asked. Over 1,000, the scientist said, frightened. Johnson turned, heading toward the main room. Get your men, he ordered the captain walking alongside him. We're going to pay our cousins a visit. Soon a whole company of men stood at the blast door leading into the main room, guns at the ready, with Johnson standing in the front line, unfazed. Open her up, he said over his communicator to the control room. The door slowly opened, revealing the room beyond. Row upon row of stasis pods stood empty, and many confused-looking hybrids stood, watching them. Don't fire unless attacked, Johnson ordered. One of the hybrids stepped forward. Who are you? He asked. Johnson noted they were all male, probably to keep them dependent. I am General Johnson of humanity, he said, stepping forward as well. Are you the leader of these, men? I was the one designated to lead, so you could say, yes. The hybrid spoke slowly and deliberately. Human. I know the word, and yet am confused by it. I have heard it many times when the Makers were discussing our creation. Makers? You mean the ones running the project? Yes. They created us to fight the battles they could not win, die, so that they could live. It is our only purpose. Sounds like a stupid purpose, and that's coming from a soldier. What's the point of fighting if you have nothing to fight for? We must fight when they tell us. If we do not, the implants release the pathogen, and we die. It is that simple, the hybrid explained. Well, not anymore. Seeing as humanity controls this facility now, I can have those implants removed, Johnson said. You would do such a thing. Why? We were created to fight for your foes. To fight you. Why would you make us fight for you? I'm asking you to fight with us. Humanity is the closest thing you have to your own species. No one else will accept you because you have our traits. But we will. And you can help us. We were ready to serve, only because we had to. Because we were made to, the hybrid said at length, after speaking with the others. If there is another way, we will take it. We will fight with you, humans. Good, Johnson said, clapping his hands. Captain, call the armory. We've got some soldiers to outfit. General Johnson, there's something I would like to do, the hybrid said. Take me to the control room. And with that, Johnson took the hybrid in tow, walking back to the control room. When the two entered, the scientists were taken aback, but a single look from Johnson told them to say nothing. The hybrid approached the communications terminal and began sending out a signal. What are you doing, son? Johnson asked. Sending the same signal we received to my brothers. There are more of us, in other places, many soldiers. When they receive my message, they will awaken and understand that the Alliance is not our master, no matter what sickness they give us. Tonight, the Alliance will know our strength.